The alien king stared at Earth through his viewing portal and instantly jizzed his pants, knowing he had to quit his emperor job and go there for sweet, sweet human pussy. King Zorgax had conquered 1,000 worlds. But as soon as his sleek silver ship entered the Sol system and the blue-green marble of Earth came into view, something stirred deep within his scaly hide. It was an irresistible, primal urge, an all-consuming desire to mate with these fascinating, fuckable humans. "Prepare my landing craft at once," Zorgax barked at his bewildered crew. "I'm going down to that sex planet to get me some tight human holes. This king gig is cramping my cock." His advisors bleated in protest, but Zorgax's mind was made up. Thousands of years ruling the galaxy meant jack shit compared to even a minute plowing willing human sluts. As his pod streaked towards Earth's surface, the conqueror of civilizations stroked his pulsing alien erection, emerald pre-cum oozing from the tip. Little did he know, humankind was the greatest challenge his mighty boner would ever face. Back on the capital world of Nasataria, the elderly sage Fornax gathered the king's bastard whelps to tell the sordid tale. "Younglings, forget your history texts. Let me tell you the real story of when that horny dumbass Zorgax first saw Earth and went cock-crazy for human poon." The wide-eyed brats leaned in close as Fornax began the lurid tale, a tale of insatiable lust, of a king shirking his cosmic duties to chase alien ass across the stars, and of a species that would bring the galaxy's mightiest pervert to his scaly green knees, all for that sweet, succulent human snatch. The wide-eyed youngling sat enthralled as Fornax continued his tale of Zorgax's misguided invasion. "Those puny humans were supposed to roll over and spread their legs for Zorgax's mighty green cock," Fornax exclaimed. "But when his ships filled the skies, the Terrans went apeshit. The humans launched everything they had at the Nasat fleet. Missiles, fighters, even fucking satellites loaded with explosives. Zorgax just laughed, knowing his shields could take the pounding. But he didn't expect what came next." Fornax paused for effect, his wrinkled lips curling into a smirk. See, the humans knew they couldn't beat Nasat Tech head-on, so they got sneaky. They sent out decoy ships, drawing Zorgax's fire while their real fighters got in close. They jammed the Nasat sensors with all kinds of electronic fuckery. Some crazy bastards even rammed their ships straight into ours, sacrificing themselves to punch holes in our formations. The younglings gasped, their scaly hides rippling with a mix of shock and begrudging respect. "On the ground it was even worse," Fornax continued. "The humans used the terrain like a second skin. They'd pop out of hidden bunkers, blast our troops, then melt away like ghosts. In space, their hackers wormed into our systems, making our ships spaz out or even fire on each other. It was a clusterfuck. Ew." Fornax shook his head, his voice growing thoughtful. Zorgax was losing his shit. He couldn't believe these primitives were giving him so much trouble. He demanded more intel, trying to figure out what made these hairless apes so damn stubborn. The old sage leaned forward, his eyes gleaming with the wisdom of ages. As Zorgax pored over the reports, it finally hit him. These humans had something we Nasat lost long ago, a fire in their bellies that couldn't be stomped out. They'd fight to the last breath, even if it meant tearing the damn galaxy down around them. Zorgax's boner started to wilt as he realized he'd picked a fight with the wrong species. Fornax let out a rueful chuckle, his gaze distant with memory. Fornax's eyes glinted with amusement as he watched the younglings' reactions. Their scaly hides rippled with confusion and disbelief. Zorgax, the mighty conqueror, brought low by human art and culture. It seemed too absurd to be true. But Fornax pressed on, his voice growing more animated with each word. Even as his ships traded blows with the human defenders, Zorgax found himself drawn to their broadcasts. He watched their movies, transfixed by the raw emotions playing out on screen. He listened to their music, the alien melodies stirring something deep within his cold reptilian heart. The old sage paused, letting his words sink in. But it was their art that truly captured Zorgax's imagination. The vibrant colors, the bold strokes, the sheer passion poured into every canvas and sculpture. It was like nothing he had ever seen before. Fornax leaned forward, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "You see, younglings, the Nasat had long ago traded creativity for conquest. We had become a stagnant people, our culture as lifeless as the worlds we subjugated. But through human art, Zorgax glimpsed what we had lost, what we could be again." The younglings murmured among themselves, their eyes wide with wonder. Fornax nodded sagely, understanding their surprise. In that moment of clarity, Zorgax made a decision that would change the course of our history. He called for a ceasefire, even as his ships burned in Earth's orbit. Fornax's voice grew solemn, the weight of the past heavy on his tongue. Zorgax opened communication channels with the human leaders, much to their shock and suspicion. In a historic meeting, he declared his intention to end the invasion and to learn from their people. He offered a truce, a chance for our species to grow together. The old sage smiled wryly, remembering the humans' initial skepticism. They thought it was a trick at first, a ploy to catch them off guard. But Zorgax was sincere in his intentions. He proposed a cultural exchange program, where Nasat and humans could learn from each other's strengths and differences. Fornax paused once more, letting the implications of this decision hang in the air. The younglings leaned forward, their breaths held in anticipation. Fornax's eyes grew distant as he continued the tale, his voice heavy with the weight of history. Zorgax, true to his word, withdrew his forces from Earth. The Nasat ships lifted off, one by one, until the skies were clear and the shadow of war had passed. On the ground the humans watched in disbelief, as their once fearsome enemy retreated, leaving behind a world forever changed by their presence. The old sage paused, his gaze sweeping over the younglings. Zorgax stepped down from his throne, a move that sent shockwaves through the Nasat Empire. In his stead, he appointed a council of leaders, tasking them with guiding our people through this new era of peace and understanding. But Zorgax himself had a different path to walk. Fornax's voice softened, a hint of admiration creeping into his tone. He chose to stay on Earth to learn and grow among the very beings he had once sought to conquer. Zorgax traveled the world, immersing himself in the rich tapestry of human cultures. He walked the bustling streets of their cities, marveling at the diversity of life around him. He sat with their artists and scholars, eager to understand the wellspring of creativity that had so captured his heart. The younglings leaned forward, their eyes wide with wonder as Fornax painted a picture of their former king, not as a conqueror, but as a student of life. In time, Zorgax found a new purpose, Fornax continued, his voice growing stronger. He became a bridge between our worlds, working tirelessly to foster understanding and cooperation between humans and Nasat. It was a role he embraced with the same passion he had once reserved for conquest. But Fornax's expression darkened, his voice tinged with sorrow. Not all Nasat were pleased with this new path. Some, like Zorgax's former general Krath, saw his actions as a betrayal of our way of life. They longed for the days of empire, when the Nasat ruled through strength and fear. The old sage's eyes flashed with anger as he recounted the events that followed. Krath and his followers staged a coup, seizing control of the empire in a lightning strike. They vowed to finish what Zorgax had started, to crush humanity once and for all. And so the skies above Earth once again filled with the ships of war, as the hardliners launched a surprise attack on the very cities where Zorgax had found enlightenment. The younglings gasped, their hearts racing as Fornax's tale reached its climax. But Zorgax and the humans would not be cowed. They fought side by side, a united front against the forces of tyranny. The battle was fierce, the cost high, but in the end they emerged victorious. Fornax's voice grew heavy with grief as he recounted the final moments of the war. Zorgax, in a last act of sacrifice, gave his life to save a human city from a devastating weapon. He died as he had lived, a champion of peace and understanding, a king who had found his true calling among the stars. The old sage leaned back in his chair, his story at an end. With Zorgax's passing, a new age dawned. The hardliners were defeated, their leader, Krath, brought to justice. The council that Zorgax had appointed took control of the empire, vowing to honor his legacy and maintain the peace he had fought so hard to achieve. Fornax's gaze settled on the younglings, his eyes bright with the wisdom of ages. "And so, my young ones, that is the tale of King Zorgax, the conqueror who became a savior, the ruler who found wisdom and purpose among the beings he once sought to destroy. Let his story be a lesson to us all, a reminder that true strength lies not in conquest, but in the courage to learn, to grow, and to change." The younglings sat in silence, their minds churning with the weight of Fornax's words. The story of Zorgax had opened their eyes to a different path, a new way of seeing the universe and their place within it. As the twin suns of Nasataria set behind the distant hills, casting the room in a warm amber glow, Fornax rose from his seat, his tale complete. The younglings, their hearts filled with a newfound sense of purpose, looked to the stars, ready to embrace the legacy of a king who had dared to dream of a better tomorrow. Fornax, his face grave with the weight of history, continued the tale of Zorgax and Earth's uneasy peace. As the years turned, the alliance Zorgax gave his life for began to fray and unravel. Human hearts, once warmed by the alien king's sacrifice, began to grow cold again. Old fears and hatreds stirred in their breasts. The young Nasat leaned forward, hanging on the elder's every word. Fornax shook his head sadly. Politicians hungry for power stoked the flames of xenophobia. They painted the Nasat as invaders, parasites come to suck Earth dry, and the people, so quick to forget, lapped up their poisonous words. He sighed, his voice heavy. Mobs filled the streets screaming for Nasat blood. They smashed the windows of our embassies, burned our flags. Even in the cities where Zorgax once walked and shared his wisdom, the alien king's memory was lost in the madness. The younglings gasped, scarcely able to imagine such hate. Our ambassadors, once welcomed with open arms, now fled for their lives as the riots consumed all reason. The dream of two peoples, Nasat and human, living and learning as one. It crumbled to ash in the face of such mindless fear and fury. Fornax paused, as if the next words pained him. With heavy hearts, the Nasat Council made a fateful choice. We could not stay where we were not wanted, and so we withdrew. Our silver ships lifted from Earth's surface one final time, bearing our people home to the stars. He closed his eyes, the memories sharp as knives. The great works Zorgax and humanity built together, the schools, the libraries, the temples of knowledge, we left them all behind, abandoned. For a brief, shining moment, our civilizations had been one, but now that bond lay shattered, lost. Fornax's shoulders slumped beneath the burden of his tale. The humans, so consumed by their petty hatreds, scarcely noticed our leaving. They turned back to their own kind, content to fight and feud as they always had. And we Nasat, hearts heavy with bitter wisdom, returned to our ancient ways alone. The elder rose, his story at last complete. This is the true lesson of Zorgax, younglings. Peace is the most fragile of flames. It must be kindled with care, tended with devotion, for there will always be those eager to snuff it out, to return the universe to darkness. Fornax's gaze swept the room, old eyes imploring. The work of unity is never done. It is the task of ages, falling to each generation that follows. Zorgax lit the path for us. Now we must walk it, no matter how steep the road. For if we forget, if we abandon the way, then his sacrifice will have been for nothing. The elder stepped back, his words echoing in the silence. The younglings looked at each other, eyes wide with the weight of understanding. The story of the king who gave up his throne for love and paid the ultimate price for peace would stay with them forever, a reminder of the work still to come. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.